Hi, welcome back to the MrShowTym podcast. In this video, I'd like to share with you a story of how I was red pilled. I'm from Newcastle, KZN. KZN stands for KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. And I was born and raised here predominantly in an urban settlement, which isn't usual as a person of color such as myself. The majority of black people come from the rural settlements, and I was one of the few who actually grew up, even amongst my family. I was actually one of the few who actually amongst my family. I would say I was the first to be born here in an urban settlement, because my siblings were born in the farmlands, in the rural settlements. So their upbringing was different compared to mine, where I was born and raised here in the urban environments in the small town called Newcastle. This is the only type of life I know. And in the black community, I've been made fun of because the ones that grew up in the hood, quote unquote, they love making fun of us who grew up with urban in the urban city, right? They say, you're a fake Negro, you don't know the hood, you don't know the struggle. Yes, exactly. I don't know the struggle, and I don't want to know the struggle. I'm privileged. I was born and raised privileged. I come from a middle class background. Everything was provided for when I was growing up. Not to say that we were rich, because we're not rich. Okay? Don't make that mistake. We were not rich, but we had enough. All our needs were met. Right? My parents were teachers. My father was a headmaster of his school, the principal of his school, and it was back then, back in the good old days, where the economy was somewhat stable. Right? It was stable enough. My parents have 5 children, me included. I am the youngest of 5 children. So I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and I am the last born. Okay? I'm the ugly duckling, as the cool kids would say. And in many cases, I have proven to be an ugly duckling. Not from a look standpoint, okay? Just strictly based off my experiences in the black community. So I was made fun of in high school, in primary school, and in high school because I pronounce my words fairly properly. I speak English properly. I don't use slang. I don't talk. I don't walk skew. I don't wear my pants halfway down my ass. I did my homework. I was a good boy. I always received stars on my forehead in preschool. I was a good boy. But the rest of the other black kids, this didn't click at me at the time, but they obviously came from broken homes, broken backgrounds. I went to English/Afrikaans primary school and high school. And a lot of the other black kids, and they had dysfunctional traits about them, their behaviors. The teachers had a tough time getting them to do their homework and just discipline, right? They were dysfunctional. And because the majority of them were dysfunctional, I was a good boy. I was made fun of. I was called all sorts of names, such as you're an Uncle Ruckus, you're a coconut. Actually, I wasn't called a coconut. No, other kids were called coconuts, but not. I was made fun of in other other fashions, right? But I was pretty much ostracized because I did not exude typical niggatry, typical stereotypes of being black. I carried myself well. My mom always packed my lunchbox and a tiny juice pack, and I was made fun of. The other kids didn't have that. I had a daily allowance. Other kids didn't have that as much. They looked at me as if I'm weird. So I had all my books stacked up, a space case full of stationery. I sat in the front row, sometimes the middle row, but you get the point. I listened in school, I did my homework, I didn't get into trouble at all. No, like I really mean like at all. I never got in trouble. Maybe one or two occasions where I didn't do my homework. Fine, granted. But overall, I was not a troublemaker. The other kids were the troublemakers. This had me ostracized in primary school and in high school. High school, I was the you see, in high school I had a variety of experiences. You have the with these American movies and films, you get the high school jock. The kid is good in sports, gets all the girls, and then you get the nerd, and then you get the neutral guy. I've had all three of those experiences in high school. Awkwardly enough, I had a chance to be, to shine in terms of sports. I was neutral and invisible, and some kind. I wasn't classified as a nerd because I wasn't a nerd, but I would hang out with nerds here and there because we had something in common. We would talk about anime, Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, So, but for the most part, I would say I was the invisible guy. Pretty much, above all these three categories, I was the invisible guy in high school. Right? Now, all these experiences went over my head. The reasons why I was ostracized, it kind of like went over my head. I was still living in a blue-pilled fantasy. I still didn't understand. It didn't click to me why I was treated this way by the black community. Right? I had some white friends. And whenever I'd hang out with white friends during break, some of these so-called, quote-unquote, friends of mine would be like, look at Musa, he's hanging out with white people. He's hanging with white people. He's an Uncle Ruckus. He's a sellout. And for the longest time, I'll sort of like let that brush off of me. I'll be like, okay, he's just being an idiot. But I've never understood why. It never clicked. I've had these experiences, but I always seem to like embed it at the back of my mind. I never asked myself as to why. So I finished high school in 2014, and I started university. I was really looking forward to university. The whole college experience. I was so adamant in the varsity cup rugby tournament and whatnot. The works. The whole college experience. And to be honest, going to university was the biggest eye-opening red pill experience of my life so far. Quite frankly, I think that would be like the biggest eye-opening experience for my life ever. When I started university, my first year, I'm gonna talk about all aspects of life. Dating, in terms of dating, in terms of understanding other people's backgrounds, in terms of how the world works. Because I come from a small town of Newcastle, and I moved to Johannesburg, a big metropolitan city. Life is very fast it's a fast lane in the big city. Life is very fast. Everything is just very quick. It's life in the fast lane. But I want to narrow it down. I want to start off talking about dating from the perspective of a black male. I have realized that black men not only have trouble dating women of other races, not that that's something that we should do often. I'm just saying, I'm talking about the perceptions of other race groups towards us. Not only do black men have trouble dating women of other races because of the preconceived notions, we also have much bigger issues dating our own women, i.e. black women. The sisters. Oh my days. Oh my god. I've had signs of this in high school. Again, I embedded a lot of these experiences at the back of my mind, because I thought to myself, oh, maybe it's just high school. These women will mature as time goes by. Nope. In university, my time in university, it became oh so clear. Black women, a lot of black women in the black community come from single parent, broken homes. Their daddies weren't there, absent. A lot of them were raised by single mothers. And since they were raised by single mothers, they have never witnessed how the dynamics between a man and a woman should be. I'm talking about healthy dynamics. Functional dynamics. They have never witnessed, or they've never understood how a woman should respond to a man. They seriously do not comprehend that a man is to be respected. A man is to be looked up to. Lo and behold, someone's gonna come into my comment section calling me a misogynist and a chauvinist. Good. Because that way they're acknowledging the seriousness of this issue. But anyway, moving on. Plowing ahead here. Black women have they have poor relationship skills. I've asked out quite a number of black women in my time, and my goodness, the attitude, the overbearing, rude, obnoxious behavior, it's overwhelming. At first I was like, okay, maybe it's that girl. No, never mind her. Oh, maybe it's that girl. No, forget her. And I started realizing it's the community in general. The attitude is just mind-blowingly terrible amongst black women. You approach a black woman, you say hi, you're like, leave me alone, fuck off. I'm like, girl, what's wrong? I just said hi. You can't even walk up to a black woman and have a decent conversation. She'll stare at you, look you up and down, and she's like, psh. I'm like, madam, you don't know me from a can of worms, and already you give me attitude. But it's funny how they respond. I've also observed how they respond to non-black men, i.e. white men, Indian men, Asian men. They have a totally different response to them. A complete stranger that is an Indian guy approaches them. Oh yeah, hi, how are you doing? You know, they shape up then. They get their attitudes in check. They talk with femininity in their voice, that high-pitched femininity and respect. They don't overtalk him. They don't give him attitude. They talk to other groups of men with respect. But they give us black men such hell, despite, even if you're like wearing a tuxedo, even if you're well dressed, you're clean shaven, you got your hair cut on point, you're smelling good, still doesn't work. See, black men have become dehumanized in this society, both by society and black women, because of, the preconceived notions coming from the media. And it's not all, I mean, part of it is our fault as well, because a lot of our black men are actually acting out the stereotype. I'll be walking around Joburg, just walking to, let's say, the nearest grocery store, and let's say perhaps a white woman, I come across a white woman, she'll immediately clench her bag, thinking that I'm gonna rob her. And I'm like, bitch, what's wrong with you? At first I felt offended, but the same night I thought about it, I'm like, okay, now I understand why she had these preconceived notions. I'm not excusing it, but I understand the why. It's because the overwhelming representation of black people, it's negative. I mean, it's just terrible. The images we're constantly seeing in the media, whenever a black person is being shown, it's always a black person acting out a fool, or is doing some criminal act. So of course people, because most other non-black people, they don't, like most other groups of people, they don't communicate or they don't interact with black people like that, aside from work. So they're gonna go off of what they see in the media. I don't blame them for that, honestly. I can't be mad at that. I really can't. Because now the responsibility also falls on us black people. Why are we also acting out the stereotype? It's easy to blame the media, sure, of course. That's an issue we need to address when we get there. But for now, let's focus on what we can control. Black people don't own the media. We don't. So whatever images they're putting out there, it's out of our control for now. That's not what we should be focusing on. What we should be focusing on as black people is what we can control. Black people, it's time for us to look at what we are accountable for. We are accountable for our actions, our own behaviors. That's the one thing we can control. We can't control how it's being portrayed in the media, but we can control our own actions. Why are so many of us acting out as criminals? Why are so many of us propagating stupidity, idiocracy, and degeneracy? My first year, I met one of my lecturers, and after class, I was consulting about something. I started speaking to her, and she's so like, wait a minute, she's so like stunned. She was stunned at my quote-unquote accent, right? And she started asking me, where are you from? I told her I was from Newcastle. I was like, oh wow, you from the UK? And I told her, no, there's a Newcastle in KZN. Didn't you know? That's been another one of my funny experiences in Joburg. I meet white people, right? And whenever I introduce myself to them, or I'm at some event, or some corporate gathering, or some meeting somewhere, or spaces out and about, I'm meeting people, right? This usually happens with white people. I introduce myself. Hi, my name is Musa. I'm from Newcastle. They always assume that I'm from the UK. Let me tell you why they assume I'm from the UK. Because I am a black person, and they have these assumptions and expectations that I come from some rural village, right? They're not expecting the name Newcastle. They're expecting a name like Emlasi, Emanzimtoti, or Emhlanga, right? Or Emnambiti. These small towns with Zulu native names. So when I say to them I'm from Newcastle, Newcastle doesn't register to them as a place in South Africa a Zulu black man would come from. Do you understand? Like, I need you to really think about this now. Think about. I know to me it's funny, but it's also serious at the same time. It's mostly funny. I mean, seriously think about these people. They're not expecting a black man to come from a place. I don't know. Maybe to them the word Newcastle sounds a little too prestigious for a South African town for a black man to come from. Do you get what I'm saying? So they hear me talk, like how I'm talking to you now. They hear me speak. They start to have these questions. Wait. Where does this guy come from? Is he an exchange student? Is he one of those exchange students from overseas? Right? And awesome. Okay, coming back to this conversation I was having with my lecturer, right? Met my lecturer for the first time. I was having a consultation session with her, and she asked me, "Where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Newcastle." I'm like, "Wow, are you from the UK?" I'm like, No, I'm from Newcastle, KZN." He was like, "Wow, but you don't sound like, you know, like." And I'm like, "What do you mean, ma'am?" She's like, "Oh no, you don't sound like one of them." Okay. At that point, I didn't know whether to be offended or to take it as a joke. I took it as a joke at thingy. I most certainly took it as a joke. I was shocked at the same time because, to me, I was wondering what's going on. Why are people having these assumptions about me? Why are people acting weird towards me based on my accent, quote unquote, the way I talk, and the name of the city I come from? Some of my classmates thought I was an exchange student, like generally speaking. And I asked them, "Wait, what makes you think I'm an exchange student?" Well, one of my classmates, former classmates, because I'm done, I'm finished now, graduated. One of my former classmates told me, "Well, Mbusa, the thing is, you don't look like the average South African." "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You've got bushy eyebrows, and you're hairy. You've got hairy legs, and you play rugby." And I said to myself, so how does that constitute, you having these assumptions that I come from overseas? So you're telling me there is no South African that has bushy eyebrows like mine, and no South African is hairy, and you've never seen a black man play rugby before? And they said, "Well, the thing is, no." And I started realizing these people come from, like, these kids, these people, the majority of my classmates, they come from, they don't come from the urban settlements. Like, they didn't have the same type of upbringing that I did. They didn't grow up in white neighborhoods. Because, listen, for me, my way of life was different compared to theirs. a lot of them, because I grew up in quite in a I was born and raised in a white neighborhood, went to white schools, white primary school, white high school, English and Afrikaans. I speak Afrikaans to a degree, and I played rugby. So amongst the black community, that's not prevalent. It's like unheard of to the rest of the kids who grew up in places like Soweto, Alexandria, Ekhayelitsha, uh, all these non-urban settlements. Their way of life is different. To them, they're expecting me to play soccer and to speak with a quote-unquote black accent and not to have bushy eyebrows. That's how I narrowed it down. So the majority of these lectures, especially with this lecture I was talking about, she's used to these kids who come from rural settlements, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Don't take offense. Let's just we're being objective. There's nothing wrong with coming from a rural settlement. It just means you come from a rural settlement. Okay, I come from an urban settlement. So she meets me. I'm different. I'm an outlier to the rest of the black kids, and she was taken. She was stunned. She was like, "Wow." She didn't know how to respond to me. She was like, "Okay." It's sort of like a robot having a malfunction with sparks flying out its ears. And I explained to her, no, I come from this place, this place, this place. And then she finally understood. And then she started like paying more attention to me. I started like she started to be like be close to me. She started to like, how can I say this? She started to like be like, okay, notice me, yeah, notice me. She remembered my name, of all the other hundreds of students. She started to like notice me specifically because I'm that kid who was different, right? And I mean that in a platonic manner. Don't get the wrong idea. Don't get it twisted. But anyway, in terms of dating, man, I've realized that black women have a serious issue with relationship skills. I started, mingling with non-black women, and my experience, I mean, to me, it was like how can I say this? The way non-black women were looking at me too was sort of like with the side eye, because they assumed I come from. They assumed I come from a rural environment, a poor background, broken family. So at first, keyword at first, they were sort of like shying away from me up until they started to like find out a few things about me. Until they started to see my Instagram, especially when they saw my Instagram. They were making comments. They're like, wait, you look, based on your Instagram profile, I would assume that you're a kid from, I don't know, like the United States or something, because I went to Comic-Con events. I went to, basically my pictures, it's not what you would expect your average black person would have on their profile. Right? I know. Sorry, I know I'm mumbling. It's just that I'm trying to say 10,000 things at once, right? But anyway, moving along the lines of moving forward from dating, dating as a black person, it's very, very different. Because in high school, I wasn't chasing girls like that. I only started like in university. So I started realizing that dating as a black man, it's very, very unique compared to the rest of the other groups of men. First and foremost, if you approach a non-black girl, even a black girl, you're gonna have to make a spectacular first impression. Like, you're gonna have to swat aside the stereotypes, the perceptions of any potential stereotypes that has been attached to being black. So, within the first 2 seconds of you opening your mouth, you have 2 seconds to completely blur out any possible perceptions of you being the stereotypical Negro. So, no wearing gold chains, no talking like a nigger, okay? You're gonna walk upright and talk properly. And also, it also has something to do with your beliefs. You know, that's a whole different story altogether. But as a black man, you have less than 2 split seconds to make an impression. And it's not about making a first impression. It's about making a long-lasting impression. Because I've had certain non-black girls interested in me, but I was cock-blocked soon afterwards by their friends lingering around because they would whisper things in their ear soon after I've done talking to that girl, soon after I've left. They would whisper things, unflattering things about me. It's like, no, girl, he's probably a criminal. He's probably this. He's probably that. He's probably smoked drugs. He's probably doing rap. And I wonder where his next album is coming out. All these things that they've seen in movies and the media. Now, I don't participate in any of those things I've just mentioned. But because they're going off of what they've seen in movies and the media, black people are black men are thugs, criminals. We're always doing rap and hip hop videos during our spare time, and we're always up to no good. That's why a lot of them, they just on auto reject mode. They're like, no, just no, I have a boyfriend. I'm like, I've only said hi, madam. I've only said hi, and you're already blurting out, no, I have a boyfriend. I'm like, madam, relax. Maybe I wanted to ask you for the time. Yeah? Shout out to King Riches. But anyway, moving along the lines of dating, let's talk about how black people think politically. So I was residing in Joburg for 4 years throughout my career, me studying in university. I've realized that black people are very lost in the source of pro-black wokeness. Black people don't understand politics at all. I've seen dozens of rallies and violent riots around and inside of my campus, here and there, of a certain ruling party making noise and shutting down the school during class sessions because it was near the elections. I've also realized that a lot of black kids, they don't go to university because they want to study. No, they go to university to cause havoc and trouble. A lot of these black kids, they were forced to go to university by their parents because their parents themselves have already had enough of them. Their parents have already been fed up with them, so they're like, no, let me just throw you away. Just go to university as long as you're away from home. So they go to university instead of making trouble where they were at their homes. Their parents just so much throw them away in varsity. They're like, just stay there and go cause trouble there. That's why you see a lot of these comrades, a lot of these political comrades disturbing us during class time. And it's like, what are you guys doing? And you see a lot of these guys not even attending classes, they just be lingering around campus, wearing EFF parades and these ANC comrades. And I'm like, dudes, go to class. This is a educational institution, not a political warfare, not a political battleground. But anyway, I don't want to make this video long. You know, college was a huge red pill moment for me, especially my first year. It helped me understand South Africa because I've always been living in my hometown, Newcastle. I was born in a white neighborhood. I went to high school, white high school. I was basically living in a bubble, in a privileged bubble, one might say. I didn't. There's a lot of things I didn't understand. I was just embedding. I was very passive about because everything was provided for me. I grew up in a stable family. Everything was provided. I went to a good school. We had sporting days. We had. To me, it's like I grew up in Europe or something, or in America. I had the same experience as an American child had. Your average white American privileged kid, right? Except I'm South African and I'm black and I live here. Wonderful place. This country is beautiful. And I'm glad I was born here. I'm grateful for the experiences I had. Because now, I left the nest. I.e., I left home. I left Newcastle. Which, by the way, is a very safe town. And I went out into the world. And I experienced things from a totally different perspective to what I'm used to. And now I understand more. I took the red pill. I don't know how many red pills I took. I swallowed those red pills. And I began to saw the code in the Matrix, just like Neo. Until this day, I'm very thankful and I'm very grateful for the experiences. In all aspects, in terms of dating, in terms of economics, in terms of what I was actually studying, in terms of politics, and etc. I understand the world in a better fashion than I do now. And yeah, that's my little story. You know, I could easily talk for another 2 hours. It's just that I'm not trying to upload long videos because I want to keep this short and brief. But if you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening, and please subscribe. I have more stories to tell, and yeah, thanks for listening, and please subscribe. Yeah.